Welcome to the Women Who Hunt podcast, a space where we share real stories from the field, celebrate women in the outdoors, and inspire the next generation of hunters. From first-time adventures to lifelong pursuits, this is where passion and community meet. The Women Who Hunt podcast is proudly supported by Gun Traders Australia, Australia's trusted marketplace for hunters and shooters. Visit guntraders.com.au and be part of the community. And when it comes to protecting the outdoor lifestyle we all share, the Australian Recreation Union is the united voice for everyday Aussies who love shooting, fishing, four-wheel driving, camping, riding and fossicking. As access is chipped away by lockouts and over-regulation, the ARU stands up to protect land access, defend our rights and ensure these traditions continue for the next generation. Join the movement at australianrecreationunion.com. This isn't just another club, it's the line in the sand. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Women Who Hunt podcast. Today we're talking about recent legislative changes in New South Wales and what they mean for people involved in hunting, shooting and the broader firearms community. As many listeners will know, this bill passed the Upper House on the 24th of December 2025, and that shift is already having real on-the-ground impacts. For anyone just joining the conversation, a brief context of this is following recent incidents in New South Wales, the New South Wales government introduced changes to firearms legislations. While implementation details are still unfolding, the effects are already being felt across the community. Today is about understanding how these changes are landing in real life. I'm joined by four amazing women, Rachel, Cass, Monique and Alicia. All from different backgrounds, all impacted in their own way and by what's unfolding right now. I'll ask each of you to introduce yourselves as we go, but first, thank you all for being here and for lending your voice to this conversation. Rach, can we start with you, mate?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rachel. I was on episode 10. I come from a competitive target pistol shooting background. I've got extensive pastime shooting and hunting with my dad, going out with Alicia as well. And we both also attend the CM range. I'm a range officer, so safety and education is really important to me, and I just wanted to come along and chat with Carly and the girls about what's going on and sharing knowledge, education, and not making it scary, but also wanting to be heard.
Awesome, thank you. And Cass?
Yeah, my name's Cass. I'm an adult on-set recreational hunter. I grew up around firearms, but hunting was not something I got into until later life. So I've been hunting for around 3.5 years now. I've also done some long-range rifle shooting in the past. I'm now really heavily involved in the hunting community, and I volunteer in a number of spaces, but I'm not here in any official capacity. I'm here as a human, as a hunter that is really passionate about this pursuit that we all undertake. I'm here to represent myself and to have a voice for this community that I adore. It's full of the most respectful and honourable people that I've met in any activity that I've been involved in my life, and I think it's really important that we share the truth of the matter of what the hunting community is all about. So that's what I'm here to do.
Awesome, thanks, mate. Mon?
Hey guys, I'm Monique. I recently just became a lawyer and I studied a Bachelor of Laws with Security Studies. And my background with firearms is that I've recently become a bit of a tactical athlete. So I've done a lot of competitions in the US, doing a variety of hybrid fitness target shooting with pistols and rifles. And I guess my position here today is I am very well educated in the legal space, and even though I'm not speaking, I guess, as a lawyer, I'm trying to speak and just be able to educate people and make things a little bit more simple, because obviously it's easy to get caught up in the media and different words that are being used. So I just really want to educate people whether or not you are from a firearms background or not, so you can be a little bit more confident in your position.
Awesome, thank you. And Leash?
Hi, I will say this straight up. I'm 30 years old and I have 28 years of hunting experience. That is across mixed disciplines from archery into firearms. I was a range officer for 6 years at Hunter District Hunting Club in Cessnock. I was bench press competitive and I trained for the Olympics for 4 years from age 15 to 19. I'm now I've been a hunter my whole life. I'm definitely getting more in touch with that and the sustainability it has for us, but also for like vermin control, those kinds of areas. And I'm now stepping into muzzle loading and just giving people a little bit more education when it comes to where, as it's been classed as, high-powered firearms have actually come from, and a little bit of diffusing that stigmatism of the fact that they're high powered, and just that little bit of education for anyone, but particularly curiosity for women, no matter what age, to ask questions and feel comfortable doing that.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. And just before we go any further, just a quick note for the listeners. This is an audio-only panel. You're going to hear some honest and some real conversation, and at times the voices will overlap each other. And that's simply what happens when people care and want to be heard. So if that's why it feels like it's overlapping, it's purely because we're all very passionate about this, and we want to be heard. So I guess the first question for you guys I've got is, was there a moment where this started to feel like it was going to be actually a real thing that we're going to have to navigate?
Well, for me, as soon as it became apparent that particular event that has started this snowball was occurring, we have a friend who has a connection to someone who works in the Defence Force in Sydney. And so we were getting a couple of updates just prior to it hitting the news. And my first thought was, it's going to get blown out of proportion, and there's got to be some more facts behind this. So there's definitely got to be, how did these people come in possession? Should they have had possession? And then all the legalities from that. And as soon as the event was taking place, it was that instant, here it comes. Like, they're going to try and pull us to pieces. And we're law-abiding people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon it became real for me when the event happened, and it was awful. It was just awful. We had conversations that very night. It became real for me when I got out to the range and there was broader conversations. All of these experienced people who were shooting around me, having these conversations and really opening my eyes as a shooter, new to the area and the game, but having all of these really experienced shooters, from the 70s with decades under their belt going, I have heirlooms. I have my great-grandfather's items, and I've now got to get rid of these. And it really it hits home when, and it's that analogy of one bad egg, and it's just rocked the community. And I just felt it in my core, having these conversations with people who now have to give up these priceless pieces that don't even fire, because we are where we are because of one bad incident.
And that's coming from people who, they've been shooting from the 70s, but it was their great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers, all grandmothers, that were hunters. And that was the sustainability they had to gather food. And now they're going to take that sentimental factor as well as a resource that they may very well still use away from us, because, as Rach has just said, one bad egg.
Yeah, I was overseas when this broke, and so I got different bits of news at different times, and people from back home messaging me about it. And my first thoughts were obviously about how horrific it was, and for the thoughts of the people present, and then then my mind did go, well, I wonder what the response to this would be. And there was a very big part of me that was like, okay, well, logically, our laws have done their job for decades. This is an isolated incident. As more news came out, as there was claims to terrorism links and the fact that there were explosives in the car that would have been used if guns were not involved, and all these other pieces of information that added up to show that this is not a gun problem. This is a problem of people that wanted to inflict violence happening to use guns. I was like, okay, all these things are factoring in, and the response shouldn't be focused on guns. It should be focused on the hatred and the terrorism and everything else. And my brain is quite logical, so it's quite hard for me to think anything other than what makes sense. But then, and the thought that two terrorists could have this much legislative power is wild to me. Like the fact that people doing the right thing for a very long time, and then two people come in that shouldn't have had access to guns in the first place have this much power. Like it's actually the result that's come out of it is it's just wild. But yeah, so it became real for me probably a few days in, really, because at the start I was like, it didn't make sense to me that the response would be what it is right now. And that's why we're all talking about how it's a knee-jerk reaction, how the changes don't even make sense. A lot of them propose bans to guns that don't exist. So, yeah.
It's a lot of like irrational thinking, and like I know that it was almost instant for me that I felt this, but it was literally a whole week of just constantly thinking about it. No matter what I did, I couldn't switch it off. And it became more real because of course, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, these poor people. I know what these weapons do in a hunting environment, and that would be absolutely terrifying. But that little bit that made it turn my stomach is my little cousin was at Bondi, and we didn't know if she was okay. And I'm thinking, these people shouldn't have had access to this. And now someone who is just enjoying a nice day at the beach, who isn't involved in any of this, could have been hurt just for a point of pure hate.
Yeah.
100%. I think what's really interesting is that, as you've said, like, they shouldn't have had these firearms in the first place. I find it really ironic how, that we are put to the test all the time. Like, we have to have psych evaluations. If there's even the slightest mention of domestic violence, someone will have their guns taken off them, whether or not the evidence is there. And you have people who are on a terrorist watch list and they're able to have their firearms. Like, it makes no sense. And obviously the government has...
Exactly right.
So the government's deflected, and instead of accepting the fact that it was their fault, their resources that led to this, they are now blaming and using firearms owners, anyone hunting target shooters who are law-abiding. They're using us as a scapegoat instead of accepting the fact that they've made the mistake. And we already had legislation, we already had laws. And if you look at some of the changes that they're making, like, for example, I think it was about the magazines. They said that now you can only hold a maximum of 5 to 10 rounds per magazine. I thought that was already in existence. You know what I mean?
That was my thought as well when they say, oh, it's an unlimited. Who has rifles or firearms with an unlimited magazine? Like, I think the most I've ever seen, and I've never seen in person, I've seen online, is like a 20-shot magazine, and that's for something like a 22. And even then, I don't think that's necessary.
They're the belt-fed lever actions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Belt-fed shotgun. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And you have people, so this is what concerns me, is how fast that this all went through the upper house, and
Yeah.
how fast they wrote this legislation, and the fact that these politicians do not know what they're talking about, because you can see through the mistakes that they've made and the language they've used, these made up belt-fed shotguns, unlimited round capacity magazines, these things that don't exist, yet they have all the power to, hurt our sport.
And this is why it's so frustrating. It is the guns are an easy target because the general public don't necessarily understand the nuances of the language used or the purposes of why people would have guns, why they would need multiple guns, or why, the different types of terminology. They're an easy target. And fair enough, if a particular politician doesn't know the ins and outs of it, that's one thing. You can't know every industry that they're responsible for, which is numerous. But there's professionals that can be engaged. There's consultation processes that would happen over time so that the response could actually be measured and logical. But that hasn't happened.
Exactly.
No,
There was no
and unfortunately,
consultation.
they've just ripped out, an unlimited supply of Band-Aids and just kept putting them on because
Yeah.
they don't understand that this isn't the problem. There's a much bigger picture here. Unfortunately, you take the rifles away, it would have been something else.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
whoever
there was
is
evidence that in the
driven to
car.
hate, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there was a contingency plan,
Yeah.
and no matter what, that particular situation, they were going to do the damage no matter what, and they were going to make it big. Now,
Yep.
unfortunately, it's 100% come down like a ton of bricks on our community, on a whole heap of law-abiding firearms owners, people who are safe, people who know that if they're not in the right mindset, do something about it. Go and, if you feel you need to give that up because you can't trust yourself, that's a really fantastic step. But these people, if they couldn't have firearms, what else could they have had? Like, they've had explosives. There was going to be something.
And already what they had, was illegal. So he had a magazine extender,
Exactly.
which was already illegal. So none of the laws that they're trying to introduce now would have prevented that terrorist attack from happening. And I think that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
That's
I think
the straight pull bolt mechanism. They did say that there was modifications. Now, like, I've seen one straight pull bolt in my life, and that was when I was a range officer, and I kind of looked at it, I'm like, well, how does that work? But for it to be, unfortunately, you watch the videos, how quick that was reloading, there is a modification. There is like a spring mechanism, and that's an illegal modification. That's not the rifle that you could purchase stock standard. That's something that has been modified for maximum impact.
Exactly. And people can 3D print parts or entire firearms.
Exactly.
And get their equipment from Bunnings. Like, it's just it's honestly insane how criminals are always going to
How
get guns or
accessible and
make them
creative
weapons.
they can get just to do damage is mind blowing. Like, me,
Which
sometimes
that really it highlights that they're focusing on the wrong thing, though, right? So if they were focusing on the right thing, which is the humans that bring hate, if they were focusing on that thing instead of the tool that was used, would that not see a better outcome for the situation?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, like one of you mentioned at the start, how the language that was being used in the media, how the police are using long arms rifles, right? Whereas if a hunter or a target shooter is using a firearm, they call it a weapon of mass destruction or something. The language that gets used is so important. I can't remember exactly what I was going to say. There was something else, but 100% the language. And it also goes down to, it's the person behind the firearm. It's not the firearm itself. So if you look at the
That's
US, for
exactly right.
example, like they don't have any social security. They really are struggling with their mental health services and infrastructure. And we in Australia are lucky that our population hasn't exceeded the amount for our infrastructure just yet, even though it is hanging on the fringes. But we do still need to focus on our mental health services and social security, because otherwise we will turn into the US, where you will see a lot of things like mass shootings happen more frequently. And whether or not, like, the laws aren't really going to make a difference if that happens, you know what I mean? So we need to focus more on that infrastructure, which is very critical.
And that's a really good perspective, in the fact that, like, how quick and how, I don't need to dive into this part, but how much were politicians being paid to be there to quickly snap and put together this legislation, where that money could have been used better elsewhere? Like, if they were concerned for mental health, why not use that fund to go through and make mental health treatment more accessible? Like, it's just throwing it all in one spot and going, let's just get this done. It's Christmas.
Yeah. It really, like, it just keeps coming back to the fact that guns are just an easy target. That's really what it is.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, it is this political posturing where it's like, look, we're doing something, we're on the ball, we're decisive. And it is an easy target because, like, you know, one of the examples that gets thrown around is that if someone was in a car crash at, you know, 200 kilometers an hour, would you limit every driver to 40 kilometers an hour, that's circling around? But this is even more than that. Like, it's saying that, you know, we'll also ban flying cars, and people, if you tried to introduce that, they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? They don't exist. This is ridiculous. That is overreach. But guns are this mysterious item that a lot of people don't understand. What's interesting at the moment is seeing the general public, though, are quite awake to the situation, in that going, hang on a minute, like, this is an isolated incident. This is about hatred. So a lot of people are pushing back, not just within their hunting and shooting community, but outside of that, they're pushing back. But there's still this void of understanding. And when it gets filled with all these really divisive misinformation narratives, then people do start to fear or to see guns as the enemy, rather than understanding what they're actually used for in very legitimate purposes, which we all understand. We understand that you might need 4 guns or more than 4 guns, because if you hunt multiple game, you need the right caliber that is appropriate for the game you shoot.
So let's unpick that for a minute for those who.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's unpick that for a minute for those who don't understand why hunters and shooters would need more than 4. So, what?
Rach has like a fantastic perspective on that, with her husband and the industry he works in.
Yeah, so my husband, he's a vertebrate pest control manager, so he will, for his job, he will need varied calibers to humanely and ethically dispatch pigs, foxes, rabbits, anything that is on land that needs to go. He needs those certain calibers in order to do that humanely, in order to be ethical himself, but, you know, respectfully dispatch that animal. He removed those guns, so those are his work rifles. He's then got his personal rifles that he likes to take hunting. And those hunting rifles, they can cross over to range rifles, but then if you've got a different chassis or you've got a different barrel, you can have 3, up to maybe 3 or more of the one caliber that will cross over, but you've got it in a different chassis with a different barrel for different reasons. And, you know, then you touch on, if you've got pistols, you know, you can quite easily exceed the new limitations that they're trying to implement, which over the last 29 years have never been an issue. But, you know, I think it was Cass who said it's conditioning. People are being conditioned now to go, oh my God, they're so bad, they're so scary, why do you need them? Well, actually, did you know for an SPC program to help with the government to volunteer on your own time, you need to have a 308, a shotgun. You know, you need to have these calibers to do your job the right way. And, you know, take away the conditioning and, you know, take away all the scary images that go with the language that is being attached to it. It opens up to a conversation and education rather than, here's a scary picture. I'm going to use that with words like guns, mass destruction, weapons, high velocity, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You put a scary image with a scary word, people are going to go, oh, my God, we've got to get them off the street. And, you know, like, again, with my husband, he's got these things for a certain purpose. It's not just have an armory at home. They've got a purpose.
You're listening to the Women Who Hunt podcast, proudly supported by Brackenwear, Australian-made hunting apparel for real hunters who live and breathe the outdoors. You've probably seen me wearing my Brackenwear gear. It's tough, breathable, and built for Aussie conditions. Right now you can grab 15% off your next order at brackenwear.com.au. Just use the code GTA15 at checkout. Brackenwear, the endless pursuit. All right, let's get back to the show. And you're not going to go out into the field when you're hunting or if like your husband's working and that sort of stuff. If you're targeting pigs, you're going to take a certain caliber. If you're targeting rabbits, you're not going to take the same caliber that you're targeting the pigs with to target rabbits.
That's right.
That's right.
And vice versa. You're not going to go...
Okay.
It's like how a golfer has different clubs for different shots. A chef has different knives for cutting different things. You need the right tool for the right job.
Yep.
You're not going to go four-wheel driving and it gets like
exactly.
There's the perspectives.
And a lot of people, when you talk to them about this, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's if they don't have that opportunity to have an open, respectful, calm conversation with someone that is actually in the hunting or shooting community, then that opportunity is lost and they don't get a chance to understand what's happening.
Exactly. Like when it comes to these limits, now they're proposing 4 for hunters and for competitive 10. And people might think 10, like that's a lot. Coming from muzzle loading, there's 4 different classes that I can cover, like in one competition. Now there's many competitions, so that you've got club shoots, state New South Wales titles, national titles, pack zone, and world championships. If you held one firearm in each configuration for these categories, you would require 21 firearms.
Yeah.
So that's 2 in muskets, 8 in rifles, 3 in shotgun, and 8 in pistol. And even if they could be used in like crossing over into different competitive areas, it would still be more than 10 to compete in these.
Yeah. And all of these scenarios we've just discussed, that's if it's just you. But if your children shoot as well and you need to have guns registered for them, then that's more. And or if there's family heirlooms as well. Like some families have guns that have been passed down generation to generation with so much tradition and so much sentiment. But that would be lost if people weren't able to have the guns that they require.
I am definitely like I fall into that, exactly what you've just said. I live in a house of 5 adults. 4 of us are firearms owners. We're all competitive shooters. Now, on top of that, the rifle that I go out and I hunt with is the Remington 700 223, and that was my 18th birthday present off of my pop.
Yeah,
I haven't been hunting with my pop ever. He would hunt when I was probably 3 or 4. I've got a photo on my Instagram of me and my little camo onesie, and I would go out hunting with him. but I've never actually been hunting with him. And Carly gave me a fantastic perspective when I did my my podcast, which was, even though my prop isn't coming out with me having that rifle, it's like he's with me all the time. And
Yeah.
he's getting older and he's getting, more frail. He's in his 80s. And when the day eventually comes, I will always have that sentimental take and be able to do things that we all share as a passion.
Yeah.
But they're ultimately asking you to choose, like,
Yeah.
practicality, sentimental, how do you choose? And you shouldn't have to.
That's exactly right. You shouldn't have to, but they just want to make you choose because they don't understand these things. They just go, oh no, it has a trigger and it goes pew, it's dangerous. And you don't need more than 4. It's a bit.
So what do you think the people outside of this community, so if you were talking to someone, and I love what you're saying, Cass, it's about, you have the conversations and people are like, you're generally like, yeah, all right, I get it now that I've had an educated conversation with someone. What do you think someone outside of this community, what do you think they're missing from what they're seeing? And if they didn't have someone who was part of this community, what do you think they're missing?
Genuine exposure, I think.
And how do you think that would change things?
I think that would change things with, it's by seeing, by doing, and by experiencing. Everything's scary. We spoke earlier about the cannons, In my wildest dreams, I would never have thought I could shoot cannons, but it's a little mini replica one. I think that was on the Queen Mary or something. I'll have to double check that. That's something that's well outside my scope, but that was outside of my scope, and I got to see how it worked. I didn't realize cannons had sights on them, so while I was getting to experience this really cool thing, I was learning history, and I was learning the mechanics and, how quick that the wick does burn down, and the boom. And, if I wasn't there and I wasn't experiencing and having that exposure, it's still something that I would think is on the side of an old ship that was shooting pirates, I don't know. And you don't know until you know. And I just... Sorry, go, Cass.
The cannon.
That's the thing. For the lack of having a real exposure to any of these recreational pursuits or these ways of life, people fill in the blanks. Sometimes people talk to me about hunting and they're genuinely surprised that I eat the meat. They're like, "Oh, you eat it?" I'm like, "Well, that's why I'm there." And I have nothing against trophy hunting because that has its own set of benefits in terms of the quality of the animals that are in the landscapes. There's all sorts of things. We don't need to go into all the science in this conversation, but so often I'll have a conversation with someone about hunting and they want to know why I do it, and then we discuss it and they walk away going, "Oh, okay, there's all these reasons that they can't factor in because they've seen movies where people just shoot each other. That's what they've seen. Or they'll see, someone going and hunting a lion in Africa in a penned paddock where all it is about taking a trophy home. And, that's all it is. It's a void that is filled with misconceptions.
Yeah. So what do you think the real concerns are for the general public if this doesn't get overturned? Like, what do you think that flash forward 12, 18 months from now, what do you think it looks like if every item in this bill is passed and run through? What do you think the future looks like?
I reckon a lot of people... Oh, sorry.
You go.
I was just going to say, a lot of people probably don't understand that it's so much bigger than the people that are actually in the hunting and shooting community, because so much investment is spent in rural communities. Because when people go into those areas, they buy fuel, they buy food. There's a flow-on effect for regional economies. There's conservation benefits that come from a volunteer workforce taking care of species management that would otherwise be contracted out to aerial culling and baiting programs, which is terrible for the environment and also terrible for the wallets of taxpayers. There's so many flow-on effects that go far beyond what would affect us in our personal lives. It would affect people's ability to connect with community. Some of the most respectful people I've met in my journey, we've not touched on it in this conversation, which generally happens, is the fact that it's male dominated, and it is, but there are a lot of women as well and a lot of kids. But of all the male dominated spaces I've ever gone into, this is the one where I hands down feel the safest, because these are men that sit around a campfire, have genuine chats, have a real sense of honor and community. If there's not the opportunity for people to meet in this capacity, then that part of that is lost. Part of the identity is lost. Part of the traditions that have been passed on for generations is lost. Like, it's so much bigger than me just being like, oh, I want my guns. Like, that's just like, guns are a tool that allow us to do all these pursuits, to invest in these spaces. It's a lot bigger than people would realize, and the flow-on effects will be a lot greater than the general public may realize.
And going out
You're
for
going
a
to see
hunt, do you
things.
come back and go, oh man, I didn't get to shoot my gun? Or do you go, oh man, I had some mad chats around the fire this weekend.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Spent days in the bush, had fresh air, got some sunshine. There's just so
Had
much
no
more.
phone reception, and it was bombed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to see things be impacted that people aren't taking into consideration. Like, the hunting community contributes so much to the economy that if we take away all of that, it is going to affect things like the cost of living, which is already in a really bad state. We're also going to see these mass inflations of pests and vermin that are going to destroy farming. And then add on top of all that, they want farmers who it's their everyday to go out, tend to livestock, tend to harvesting, setting up for new seasons. And we want them to travel sometimes over 1,000 kilometers, go and check in at a range to say, yep, we've got an attendance. Like, they have a life that provides us with our quality of life. And you're going to try and make them do more?
Yeah.
Like, that's not fair.
And that then also branches into the question of when people say, well, why would anyone living in the city need a gun? You know, a lot of people that do pest control for farmers, they might live in the city because that's where their business is or their family is, and then go out to farms on the weekend. Just another misunderstanding that people would have. It's like, well, if you're not going to pull the trigger in the city, why would you keep your gun in the city? It's like, because, well, that's where your home base is. That's where you leave from. You know, it's the only problem is when those guns are in the hands of people that want to do harm. That's what it is. Just the same as a knife would be in danger in their hands, or a car is, you know, it can be a weapon by someone that wants to do harm.
Absolutely. It's
So you touched on this a
huge
minute ago, Cass.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, and you touched on this a minute ago, Cass, about it hasn't come up in this conversation. So let's talk about it. So let's talk about the women in hunting aspect of it. What do you think that is going? How is that going to be impacted, do you think?
It might scare new hunters. You know, I've got a couple of friends who are now lining up because of the exposure, the negative exposure it's all getting, unfortunately, and they may be impeded because, you know, PTAs have been shut down. Like Alicia touched on earlier, P650s are going down. So if you don't allow these new interested shooters the opportunity to have a trial at a range, it's going to impact their ability to go out in field. They won't get that practice or the sit down and the talk, you know, with everyone that's in the community who can impart some sort of wisdom, and build that confidence up for the field, you might just see less and less shooters. And I'm sure every one of the girls today have spoken about it. The feral population is going to explode, and there will not be enough people to help manage that.
The thing with some of these proposed changes, we have like the P650 form, which we have at our range, where Rach and I are, we have try-shoot days. Now, they are people of legal age that come out, fill out a P650 form, and they are seated with a qualified range officer who handles the rifle for them, and all they are doing is pulling the trigger. The rifle is on the bench, they're looking down, and they're pulling the trigger. The proposed changes are that they're going to have to apply through the gun portal, get approved or denied, depending on the police commissioner's discretion. And that, to me, that's already an area that is so thinly stretched that you want to take on another duty, but these are potentially the same people that if someone's license is lapsed, they're meant to be going out and removing a firearm or multiple firearms. But you want them to go through and check to see if, should we let Frank come out and try shooting a rifle? And that can extend wait times, that'll be PTAs, and it is going to become a huge deterrent for anyone, like juniors, adults, women. 100%, I feel it will be a big deterrent, because some people need to build the confidence just to go and fill out a P650 form. You have to go through this process. I know for me, when I was 13, I would be like, I am not doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the admin side of things is already under, under the pump. I know when I did my last renewal, it took months. So adding on any extra steps like that, where the risk would be so low, without focusing on areas where there are genuine risks, like background checks for people that might be related to someone on a terrorist watch list, could be maybe better use of resources.
It's a higher priority.
Yeah.
It's prioritizing the wrong things.
Yeah.
And if it deters enough people, where's our next generation going to come through?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to. And if it does eventually, the people who have that knowledge might not be around to teach them.
And then that legacy gets lost.
Yeah,
exactly. And the morals and family, just all of it will get lost.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Women Who Hunt podcast, proudly supported by Nature's Perks, the ultimate outdoor adventure hub. Nature's Perks helped us take our hunting to the next level, and they can do the same for you, helping you grow your skills and confidence in the great outdoors. Become a member today at naturesperks.com.au and unlock exclusive benefits, fortnightly prize draws, guided hunts, fishing charters, and special discounts. Nature's Perks, where the wild side of life rewards you. All right, let's get back to the show.
So what do you think we should be focusing on?
I think just talking, and I know I have for a long time. I'm very matter of fact about the fact that I'm a hunter. I'll talk to anyone about hunting that wants to listen. Anyone, I love it. But I know quite a few people in the community for a long time had that, that mentality of like, won't pop our head up too high. No one will really notice, and we'll just get on with our business. And maybe that ideally should be able to happen, because for the most part, hunters and shooters are just going about their business honourably, law-abidingly, just living their lives. But right now, I think it's actually really important that we put on, show up, open a window for people to actually see what the reality is, because as we're seeing, without that, the narratives do come along and misinform people, and then fear spreads, and it kind of escalates to a place that's just not actually reality. So just keep having conversations, be transparent, be respectful, understand that the person you're talking to isn't trying to be, defensive or trying to be difficult. They probably just don't understand the situation, or they might be curious. Most people in my journey are curious. Whenever I talk about hunting, they're just like, oh, why? And I got back into the country yesterday, the day before, so I haven't had any in life, like real life conversations since I got back to see if the curiosity is still there predominantly since this incident. But in the past, that is what I've received most of the time.
I think as well, so it's not just the firearms legislation necessarily that's going to impact everyone. It's the freedom of speech that they've incorporated. And I don't understand why they've slotted it into the same bill. But people don't realise that is going to impact all their thoughts and opinions and how they present those in the future. So really, all Australians should be on our side, trying to push back on this. And McDonald Law is actually raising money. I think he's raised almost $400,000 now. He's going to need close to $1 million. But he is going to take this hopefully to the High Court and really push back on this, because it does infringe our rights. It really does infringe our constitutional rights in so many ways. And we need everyone on board with this, every single person who has a firearms license, to share the link. You don't have to donate them any money, but just I think that's our best chance, is really backing these guys who are going to help be a voice and hopefully stick it to these guys.
I will just say that and it's not a go at anything you just said. Just one key part is all Australians. My husband is a permanent resident of Australia. He's from England, and he has gone through excessive scrutiny when it comes to the entire visa process over the last 6 years. And he has gone through to get his firearms license, and he's done all the correct things. He's not on any form of watch list. He's law-abiding to our country, as well as the processes we have in place for firearms. But there's the backlash of that he's also law-abiding, but we're going to take it away from him because this person that committed such a horrific thing was not a citizen.
Yes, because they're changing, they're restricting to only Australian citizens, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or they're trying to,
so they're trying to, and like I've spoken with my husband, we are going to go through the citizenship route. However, it is like he's done everything right, and he's going to be punished just like we're going to be punished for things that we didn't do.
It's just like how the politicians always go on about how we shouldn't judge religion and ideology, someone from a religion or an ideology, but they're judging all of us as firearms owners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this just highlights again, like the point that was made about how this infringes on freedom of speech, spot on. And it also just shows the expediency at which these laws were changed based on the behaviour of terrorism, like of terrorists, like committing a terrorist act. And just how the lack of due process and consultation and everything else that goes with it. This is one incident. So everyday Australians, whether you know about guns or not, should be concerned with the lack of professionalism and the lack of evidence that was required, the lack of process for this. It's really quite concerning that something like this can happen and the response can be done in this manner.
So my husband is a very much fact-driven man. When the petitions came through, he read them all, and he's like, I'm going to sit on this. And I said, you're not going to sign? He goes, I just need to think about it. And he did more research. And the two things that changed his mind was the fact that this particular terrorist attack, and that is unfortunately what it is, was linked to 2 other events within the world on the same day. So there's that factor, as well as in 2023, there was a mass influx of immigration. There was 536,000 people coming in 2023 to live in Australia. Now, that's the population of Tasmania.
Wow.
So I couldn't imagine that they went through the same scrutiny and the same in-depth scrutiny and processing that my husband went through in 2019 that quickly.
Yeah, that's it. Like the lack of time, it's both the reasons for this event occurring haven't been properly examined, but then also the flow-on effects of the proposed laws haven't been properly examined either. So like the effects to individuals, the effects to the industry, to regional economies, the effects to everyday people in terms of what our lives might look like going forward. All of that hasn't been considered. It was such a quick turnaround. That's concerning, no matter what it is, no matter what the law is. Anytime something that happens like this and laws are made without proper consideration, that has to be concerning in a democracy. That is really concerning.
Exactly. And there's, for me, one of the big highlighting moments. I don't like I'm not a huge follow into politics kind of thing, but when John Howard addresses the fact that this is not the correct process, this isn't the problem. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people choked on their coffee thinking he would never be on the side of Hunter or a shooter. Like, it's one of those things I would never have seen coming. And considering he's one of the big players when it came to implementing the world's strictest gun laws, and he's saying this isn't a problem, shouldn't people be listening?
But when he implemented that in 96, it took, 4 or 5 months to get that through consultation,
Not 3 days.
through engagement, through not 3 days.
Exactly.
That's what's most concerning.
Yeah. You asked before what you think what we need to focus on now. And I'm big on this in any area where I feel like every person has personal responsibility to both seek and share the truth. And I guess that's what we can do now, is we can both seek the truth for ourselves. So that was great what you were sharing with what your husband did before with his research. And I think we need to keep doing that as well, because as more information comes out, like we don't want to just be going off on all these random tangents. I think we all just need to keep across the situation and keep sharing it and keep sharing perspective. So both seek and share the truth. And like you said, like if you're donating to causes, if you're writing to members of parliament, if you're writing to, making voices heard through all the legal appropriate channels, I think that's what we need to do. We need to not sleep on this, and like exactly why this is great that this meeting has been called today, Carly, that you've pulled us all together, because we do just need to keep talking about it and sharing it, and so that we can actually close the gap between what the reality is and what people's misunderstanding might be right now, and then we can have a better way forward together without all the fear and without all the fiction.
And it's such an emotional time.
Yeah, it's like
for everyone.
Sorry, you're right, Cass.
It's such an emotional time for everyone involved, and it's really important that when we're having these discussions, we're writing that we're respectful, because they want ammunition, no pun intended, to be like, oh yeah, these guys are whack jobs. Like, this is why we're having these laws. You know what I mean? So it's really important to not play the game. Like, be level-headed, use your facts, use your reasoning, be respectful when you are having these conversations, so that you are taken more seriously and you don't give these guys anything to use against you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it comes to. People can make any claim they want about you or about themselves, but what you do will prove it. So, don't fall into this narrative of any kind of negative stereotype that is trying to be portrayed in the media about hunters and shooters. That we already know that's not us. That's not anyone I know. So it's just, yeah, like you said, it's important just to remain respectful in our process. And it is hard sometimes to use words that, I mean, it's not hard to stay respectful, but sometimes like you can become quite passionate about this because it is so illogical and so unjust that there's a passion that comes with that. But, you know, we can.
You get to a point where you want to be passionate, but in your head you're sitting there thinking, oh, can I just shake this person and make them understand? But you've got
Yeah.
to be patient, respectful, and
Yeah.
explain the facts of why you believe this and why it's going to have these effects. These are people that don't have our lifestyle. These are people that haven't grown up the way we've grown up or been introduced into these things and have gone, oh, actually, there's a lot of discipline. There is a lot of safety. There is a lot of education to be had.
So do we want
Exactly
to
right.
talk about what that safety is? Like when you're walking into the firearms hobby that we all love and enjoy, the lifestyle more than a hobby, I think for me, I think the piece of information that has been resoundingly clear that the general public that aren't exposed to firearms in general is the fact that then they're not exposed to what things we have to go through and for in order to have a firearms license. So, Rach, for you as an RO, what does safety look like in real life on the range?
Oh gosh, in real life, I mean, every range is going to be a little bit different. Like we're always muzzles up, but it is just being so considerate, careful, being aware, and it sounds so simple being aware, but in such an environment that we are in, if you're not aware of your muzzle direction, clear chambers, clear footwells, just your walking spaces. So much could go wrong in a very short space of time in such a small area with many bodies. So it's the awareness every day that we bring into the range. So we have chamber flags just to really double check that, everyone's clear. We have a range officer clear everyone off the line to make sure there's nothing lodged, lost, or misplaced. Everything is double checked, triple checked, just for safety's sake. It's too precious to us. Life is too precious. The sport, the environment, the community is too precious for us for any mishap. So as an RO, safety is paramount, right down to what shoes you've got on. We don't take it lightly. It's really quite serious, and I think people might not know that side of the range and the role of the range officer. Like, we're not there to be drill sergeants. If we keep it safe, we keep it open.
Just last week, I saw that in action. There was a guy next to me and he discharged his firearm like he wasn't intending to, but he accidentally. And the range officer kicked him immediately off the range and said that was negligent fire, you're out. And they're constantly watching. There's cameras everywhere. It's probably one of the safest places to be, honestly, because everyone is on their best behavior. You have so many contingencies in place. Everyone's watching. So, yeah, it's not just...
That's right. So firearms owner, no matter what type of firearm you may have, it's not just on you to be safe and to be mindful of everyone else and how you are presenting in that environment. There's people in place to make sure that you are doing that. And it's their duty that day to make sure that they're safe, you're safe, everyone's safe. That's their number one priority.
And everyone's head's on a swivel, right? I know when we go in,
100%.
everyone's watching for everybody else and making sure that your muzzle's pointing the right way and all of those sorts of things. And you don't just walk into Kmart these days and grab a 308 off the shelf like you used to in the 1960s or whenever that was. There's stringent licensing and safety courses and cooling off periods and so much legality that's already in place in Australia. Someone said before, 29 years, and this is the first time anything's happened. I think it goes to show that it's not the firearms, it's the nut behind the butt.
And we have shootings all the time in Sydney, Queensland, Victoria. Like, there are shootings every day, whether it's gang related or not. And do they have registered firearms? Most of the time, not.
That's right. There was where they have those like political cartoons. It has 2 bins for the buyback. Law-abiding firearms owners, heaps of guns in there. Criminals, is there any guns in that bin? No.
Yeah.
They're not going to give it up. It's us.
Yeah. So if the decision makers were listening right now, what would you want them to actually truly understand from our perspective?
To understand it. Since this awful thing has happened, we have had out at our range a lot of local MPs and lower house reps come out and talk to us on the range, us as ROs, us as shooters, us as juniors, minors, P650s, and they're actually engaging with the community where it's impacting the most, and they're genuine. They're so involved now, and these are MPs who are coming out on a P650 who don't have licenses, who are getting that real life exposure to a sport that we really love. And we can bang on all day about how safe it is, but it's that lived in experience that they're now getting to stick the finger in the pie, I suppose.
Yeah.
They are seeing how safe it truly is, and the protocols we do go through, the hoops that we're jumping through, the measures that are put in place for safety. And I think if they are listening, come out and just have a go. Like, be with us, be with the community, take off the blinders. You're not looking clearly, you're looking hysterically, knee-jerk, what looks good. Am I now protecting one community while I'm disarming, so to speak, another community who don't need that? Whilst, all these little hubs and communities and people, the protection's needed, but from who? Like, they've really got to look at who they're protecting these peoples and these communities from. It is not us. It's not us.
And I call all politicians.
I think to follow.
Sorry, I call all politicians to go out to the farms and see the destruction that all of the pigs, the foxes, the vermin have done to farms and to our food supply and our native wildlife. So,
yep,
experience it for yourself. Just go out
Absolutely.
to a farm.
And to
Absolutely.
follow on with both of those things is it's all about education. It's the fact of you can't come and make decisions and say this is going to apply to all hunters. Those hunters may be competitors. Those competitors might be competing for our country. And you're going to put just a generic block on everyone. You need to go through and understand who this is actually impacting. There's people that have livelihoods. We have farmers. We have people in vermin control. We do have competitors, have trophy hunters, all of that. Make educated decisions, not just, oh, well, this will work for everything, because that's not how it's going to work. And we're not scary people. We're usually quite compassionate. We are passionate about our sport, and we just want people to understand our perspective and understand that it's not all scary. There is so much safety involved, and we just need people to know that.
So I guess that's the call to action, right? If you've got some sort of some sort of opinion or whatever, go pop down to your range at one of the give it a shot days, get behind a rifle, have an RO sit next to you and explain the functionality of it, go and see what a rifle range looks like and how it operates, and then have the decision makers do that and go out to the farms and to see what putting a red pen through this one thing that might feel like it's doing something, putting a red pen through this one thing, what the actual impact to the land, to our country, is going to have.
Yeah. Very well
Absolutely.
put.
Exactly.
Get
It's
out
going
behind
to
your
be
desk and go.
Yeah. I think anyone listening, that's exactly what you should do. Seek the truth and share the truth. If you want to understand this space better, reach out to someone that, I'll chat to anyone about hunting. I'm sure a lot of other people would too, or go down to the ranges, seek out the truth. And then for anyone that's in the hunting or shooting community, share the truth. That's what it comes down to, communication.
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and ask the questions. If there's a question that's sitting there that you think, I don't want to ask this, ask it,
Yeah.
because if you don't, someone's going to, or everyone's going to sit there and think about it but not ask it, and then you'll never know.
There's
Yep.
only one silly question, and that's the one left unasked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I encourage everyone listening, if you don't have a firearms license, go and apply. Do the safety course, get your firearms license. You don't have to necessarily get into hunting or target shooting, but obviously you'll need something to acquire. But just get it. It's so empowering, and it'll allow you to get on the range and then eventually get into hunting or whatnot. So just get it.
Get involved.
Yeah, that's right. You might not be, hunting might not be your thing. That's cool. But if you want to go out and you want to destroy a piece of paper or a little silhouette ducky, go for gold.
Yeah.
It's so eye opening that it's a sport as well as a way of life,
Yeah.
and it's up to your own personal perspective of how you're going to interpret it or incorporate it in your own life.
And you know what might surprise a lot of people is just how diverse the hunting and shooting community is. So one thing we haven't touched on a lot in this conversation is how, we did a little bit about how, we don't want to judge everyone based on the actions of a few small people. Within the hunting community generally, and there are some, good and bad examples, but generally it's a diverse mix of people, and people come together and they just get on because we're there for the same reason. Like our morals and our values are really quite similar, regardless of what your religious or cultural or, your race, whatever your background is. There's just a mixing pot, and people actually really get on. So there's claims by various people and institutions saying that, that they want unity, and that's why these laws are being changed. But it's actually very divisive the way that it's been done. Where I see the most unity is actually in the hunting and shooting community, and I think that's something that also surprises people when they learn a little bit about my journey and the journey of so many people that I know as well.
Oh,
We're all coming
100%.
together for a common interest, and then that common interest builds so many relationships, so many great relationships, great friendships. I met Rach out at the range, and she expressed interest about coming out hunting. I'm like, girl, come out hunting. You want someone to help
Yeah.
you learn to hunt? Come out with me. I promise I won't make it scary. I promise I won't make you feel bad. If you're a good shot, a bad shot, which you're a fantastic shot, do not put yourself down. And you build those relationships. Those people become your hunting family or your shooting family.
Yeah.
They're your people.
And it's universal because I did a couple of comps in the USA last year, and every range that I went to, every competition I attended, everyone was willing to help me out, whether it was a guy, a woman, whoever. And I was just so appreciative. And it's so awesome, the community, whether you're a hunter, target shooter, or if you're in the US training for self-defense, everyone is just so welcoming.
Yeah, I've got a few friends in the US that one of them, they own a farm. They are homesteaded. They go out and they kill deer, they butcher deer, and when they aren't going out and doing that for themselves, they're providing a service of butchering other people's game to
Wow.
help them feed their family. And for me, I love watching their news feeds on Facebook, because I'm like, oh, they have a new season and they can hunt certain things in that season. And to me, that's so interesting because it's different from us. But
Yeah.
then I've recently got into canning, learning how to do canning. And Rach, gets my random messages. They're like, oh, what if I kill people with my canning? What if I poison them? But these are questions I ask my friends in the States. And it's sustainability. It's a community. We're all in it for a common interest.
And what I love is it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. It doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair or you're 80 or you're 12.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's no other thing, I don't think, that I've ever come across that is just so unifying. And I'm using your word, Cass, because that's exactly what it is. We are talking about unity, and you're trying to rip down the one thing that actually demonstrates what unity looks like.
Yeah.
I think I echo that. I think everyone's just really said it so well. But, my mother-in-law was on the podcast only a couple of episodes ago, and Donna mentioned how much closer it has brought myself, her son, like my husband, and her together. It's something that we now share a common passion for. We go out on a Sunday, so on our Sundays we're only running 22s, and it's always standard velocity or subsonics. So it's a nice, quiet, chill day. And in Donna's words, it's just so zen. You're shooting at your own target. You're doing it at your own pace. You're safe, you're comfortable, and all you're doing is trying to better yourself in a community. We've already got that existing bond because we're family, but now we've got this extra bond that people don't understand. And I don't know if it's because people are afraid to ask or we just don't advertise it, but this is something, we go traveling and we do it together. We go up to Tamworth and we shoot together. We go down to Sydney. We'll have another shot in Sydney. With Alicia, we go out whoop whoop, and it builds connections, and I think someone said it's empowering, and you just feel so good, and it's a skill as well. At the end of the day, you're refining your own skill with your tool, and that's all it is.
Yeah, like Jamie, his first time ever coming out and hunting, like he'd shot rifles in the UK, but coming out hunting, he's like, I don't know if I'm gonna hate this and never want to shoot a gun ever again, or if I'm gonna love it and I want to go hunting all the time. And I looked at him and I said, the only person that can make that decision is you, and no matter what, it's your decision. I'm very thankful that he loves hunting. But he'll come out with me and he'll ask me questions like, how do I do this? I'm shooting and this is happening, and I'll explain it to him, but I'll explain it different to a lot of other people that have been only in a hunting environment. And I explained that to Vaughn and to Rach, that my shooting style is different because I come from such a competitive background, that I've used the skills that I've learnt there in my hunting. And Rach likes to, I guess, inflate my ego sometimes with, you're a fantastic shot. Like I don't want to feel worse because you're such a great shot. Well, guess what? I have horrible days, and that's okay. But it's about the community that you build. You just keep building each other up.
Yeah. And Rach isn't a bad shot, just saying.
No, she's not. She's a fantastic shot, and she's coming out. She's got to tell me if she's coming out hunting with me.
No pressure.
And I will teach you some more. It's fine. And there's never, and it's the same with anyone that I would sit down with and teach, whether I'm your best mate or someone I honestly cannot stand. I will sit there and I will go through and I will help them to better themselves and to be more educated.
Yeah. So we'll wrap shortly, but before we do, if there was one thing that you would want people to walk away from after they've listened to this podcast that we've not yet covered, what do you reckon that might be?
Mine is seek the truth and share the truth.
And what does that look like, Cass?
So that looks like if hunting is unfamiliar to you or shooting's unfamiliar to you, if you are a hunter or a shooter and you're not quite across the situation that's going on, every single person has a personal responsibility to seek out the information that's required for them to make an informed decision in what their opinions are in life, and then to share that truth. So that looks like hunters and shooters sharing it with people outside of our community to raise awareness and to grow the understanding. It looks like sharing your truth to your MPs, standing up, having a voice, having your say, making sure that your thoughts are communicated in a respectful way so that lawmakers understand that there's a lot of people that this matters to, that there's a lot of consequences and also a lot of unintended consequences that have not been considered that could come as a result of the proposed changes in terms of effects to individuals, but then communities. So that's what it means. It's like, find the information that you need and then share that information as well. So let's just all communicate. Let's actually close the gap of misunderstanding that exists, and we all have a personal responsibility to do what we can in that space.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Go through, do the research, speak to people who do understand the situation, and get to a level where you can hold yourself accountable for your thoughts and your opinions on things.
Yeah.
It's
And I'm constantly
something
learning.
we all have to.
Yeah, we're always on a journey, right? I can have opinions on everything I know for now. I know how these proposed changes will affect people that I care about, how if, because I'm in Victoria, if, depending on what conversations happen here or what changes happen here, I know how they might impact me and my communities. But then I still need to keep researching and understanding the space better, understanding what people's reasons for fear is so that I can then communicate to that and I can actually respond to the reality for other people as well. Obviously my view is based on all the experiences I've had. I understand that we're all in our own somewhat echo chamber. I try and look outside of that. I try and understand why people would think differently to what I do. And then, I have conversations about that. But it's unfortunate when decision makers don't even seem to be doing what basic humans do just generally so that they can have a rich and full life with the people around them. So, that's what I would just encourage everyone to do, to keep learning, to keep seeking the truth, to keep speaking to other people.
Absolutely. And understanding that if you are part of the firearms community, that you may be a very small little drop in a big pond. For myself, I'm learning muzzle loading. The last time I spoke to Carly was when I did my little podcast interview, and I could not tell you how to load a muzzle loader. Has that changed since? Yes, and I've competed since. So
Absolutely.
it's just ever evolving. You will always find something to learn.
Every day's a school day.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Absolutely, and if it's not, it's boring.
Yeah, I was going to say, if any of the listeners are unfamiliar with different sports that exist, check the tactical games. It is such a cool sport. It's in the US and also some countries in Europe, but just check that out on Instagram if that piques your interest, and you could potentially be training for that in Australia. And you've got the biathlon at the Olympics, you've got your air rifle, air pistols.
Yeah.
There's so many different sports that you can be involved with, and it's not scary. So just...
That's right. There's bench press, there's muzzle loading, there's pistols, there's cannons. There's all of those things that not everyone knows.
Yeah, 100% agree. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to say thanks to each of you for sharing your time, leaning into this conversation. It's been so wonderful and so respectful. I've walked away learning something, as I always do, from you lovely ladies. And thanks for lending your voice to this conversation. It's a really important conversation to continue having. And what we've heard today isn't about politics or headlines. It's about people and lived experience. And I think that's what has resonated with me the most. Like, this could have been quite a political conversation, but it's actually been human focused. And it's actually, we've been talking about like your real world impacts and how decisions that are made in a quote unquote knee jerk way, what impacts that they have in real life. If you've listened to this conversation and it's resonated with you, please, all we ask you to do is stay informed, stay connected, reach out to your MPs, complete petitions. There's lawsuits and all sorts of things. McDonald Law has got stuff happening. Educate yourself, find out what you can do to show the government that we are a bigger community that they think that we are. And please, please, please keep having respectful conversations. Lead with love and lead with education. I always fall back to a Brene Brown quote, which is, it's hard to hate up close.
Mm-hmm.
So lean in. If you're not familiar, if you're not sure, lean in and find out. Thank you all for listening to Women Who Hunt. This has been the United Voices podcast. And I'd just like to say, take care, everybody. Your voice matters, and we will see you next time. Thank you, ladies, for joining. Really do appreciate you jumping on and sharing your wisdom with the Women Who Hunt community again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.